Perry Annunziata is one of those characters in The Sopranos who barely speaks, barely gets any real story, and yet says a lot about the world he lives in just by standing there. He comes in late in the series like a new piece being added to a chessboard that is already worn out from years of play. By that point, a lot of the older guys are tired, sick, paranoid, or burned out. Into that environment steps Perry, a young, strong, good-looking soldier who looks like he belongs in a modern gym more than in a smoky back room. He is the kind of guy who, in another life, could have been a personal trainer or a club bouncer. Instead, his main job is to be next to the most dangerous man in New Jersey, giving the illusion that this man is protected, while actually being the one who is most exposed. From the moment Perry shows up as Tony's bodyguard and driver, the show makes it clear what he represents. He is not there to be a deep character with long monologues and complicated inner conflicts. He is there to represent a type, the young, up, and coming tough guy, the new generation of muscle. Clean haircut, good shape, stylish, but simple clothes. Compared to the old men around him, Perry feels like a product of the 2000s. He is image-focused. He has the look. He has the body. He has the presence. And in a world like the mafia, that matters. Standing next to Tony, he helps keep up the idea that the boss is still powerful and still has young, loyal soldiers around him. That visual is part of the job. When people see Tony, they also see who walks behind him, and Perry is used as a walking statement. We are still strong, we are still dangerous, and we still have fresh blood. Tony himself notices this. There is a moment where he comments that Perry looks like a younger version of him. That line is not just a joke, it is the key to understanding their connection. Tony is older now, heavier, weaker after the shooting, with health problems, panic attacks, and a fear of what comes next. He is starting to face the fact that time is beating him. So when this younger, fitter, more athletic guy shows up to guard and drive him, it is like Tony is looking at a version of himself that never got shot, never got sick, and never lived with that constant fear. Perry becomes almost like a mirror that Tony does not want to look into for too long. The boss who once was the strongest man in every room is now walking around with a guy who reminds everyone what he used to be. This is where the relationship between Tony and Perry becomes interesting. On the surface, Perry is only a worker. He does what he is told, drives where he is told, stands where he is told. He does not complain. He does not argue. He is respectful and quiet. To a basic viewer, it might look like there is not much there. But if you look deeper, he represents an important part of how power works in that world. To be the boss, Tony needs people like Perry. Without physical enforcers, his threats are just words. Perry's presence gives weight to Tony's orders. If someone looks at Tony and sees he is old, tired, and out of breath, that could invite disrespect. But if that same person also sees a young, strong, serious bodyguard beside him, there is still a sense of danger. So in that way, Perry is valuable. But his value is not based on who he is inside. It is based on what he looks like and what he can do with his hands. And because his value is only physical, it is also fragile. Muscles get old. Bodies get damaged. And when the boss starts to see his own reflection in that body, that value becomes mixed with resentment. That tension explodes in the gym scene where Tony, dealing with fear about his health and possibly cancer, suddenly decides to turn Perry into a human outlet for his anxiety. Without much build-up, he attacks him, hits him, and beats him in a way that feels personal even though Perry did nothing wrong. On paper, it looks like a simple outburst of anger, but it goes much deeper than that. Tony's trying to prove to himself that he is still dangerous, still strong, still capable of violence. He picks the closest target, and that target happens to be the young man who reminds him of what he used to be. Perry's reaction in that moment is maybe the most important thing about his character. He does not fight back. He does not talk back. He does not even try to protect his pride. He just takes the beating. That silence says everything about the power dynamic. Perry knows that this is not a fair fight and not a normal situation. This is the boss losing control and using him as proof that he still has it. In that world, fighting back against the boss, even in self-defense, is not an option. Standing up for yourself might feel right in a normal job or in a gym, but in this life, it can get you killed. So Perry accepts it as part of the price of being close to power. He has to carry the fear, the humiliation, and the physical pain, and then show up again the next day like nothing happened. That is the reality of being close to the boss in The Sopranos. On paper, it looks like a promotion. You drive the boss, you stand next to him, people treat you with respect because they know whose shadow you're in. Guys might open doors for you, give you free drinks, show you extra politeness. They know that insulting you might be seen as insulting the boss. From the outside, that seems like status. But the show uses Perry to reveal the dark side of that position. The closer you stand to power, the more you are in the blast zone when that power becomes unstable. If Tony has a panic attack, a rage attack, a health scare, or just wakes up in a bad mood, someone has to absorb that energy. And most of the time, it will not be a high-ranking guy like Silvio or Paulie. It will be the young soldier standing closest to him, the one who cannot fight back and cannot say no. Perry's life also shows how the illusion of opportunity works in the mafia. A young guy like him might think, if I stick close to the boss, if I drive him everywhere, one day I'll get a chance to prove myself and move up. He might imagine eventually being trusted with big money, important jobs, and respected status. But the show never gives us any sign that this is happening. Perry is never shown handling real business. He is never shown as a thinker, an ear for advice, or a man whose opinion matters. He is only there as an accessory, a body on the edge of the frame. In a sense, he is stuck in place, even while walking around the highest circles of that world. That is the trap for many soldiers, being close enough to taste power, but never close enough to actually have it. Another interesting part about Perry is how he fits into the bigger picture of the changing mafia. The older generation of wise guys had a different style. They had stories from the old days, they had a certain crooked charm, and even when they were violent, they had some traditions they claimed to follow. Guys like Paulie and Silvio grew up in a different time. Perry feels like a sign that those days are over. He is not about stories, he is about presence. He represents a more modern image of crime, gym-built, less romantic, more straightforward. He is like a living security system. That is not to say he has no personality at all, but the show keeps that hidden on purpose. He could have a family, hopes, fears, or doubts, but we never learn about them. And that is the point. In this world, most guys are not main characters. They are background workers, and they can be replaced at any time. The way other characters treat Perry also reveals the unwritten rules of that life. Around Tony, people give Perry respect because he is physically connected to the boss. But that respect escapes she has a physically connected to the boss. But that respect is shallow. If Tony were to disappear tomorrow, that respect would vanish overnight. Perry does not have deep ties, long friendships, or a big reputation built over decades. He is still new. His status is on loan from Tony, and that means it can be taken away just as quickly. Other soldiers probably look at him with a mix of envy and pity. Envy, because he seems to be in a privileged spot so close to the boss. Pity, because they know that this position comes with pressure, risk, and no guarantee of a future. We also have to think about what might be going on inside Perry's head, even though the show never spells it out. Imagine being a young, strong man whose job is to protect someone who could destroy your life with one wrong word. Every time Perry steps into a room with Tony, he has to be ready for anything. A joke, a compliment, an order, or a sudden explosion of rage. That kind of environment wears on a person. Even if he believes in loyalty, even if he respects Tony, there must be moments where fear and confusion creep in. Especially after the beating in the gym, Perry has to live with the knowledge that no matter how loyal he is not safe from the man he serves. That is the harsh truth the show keeps repeating in this world. Loyalty is expected, but it is not rewarded in a fair way. Perry is loyal. He is obedient. He is useful, and yet his reward is pain and humiliation. He does not get a speech of praise. He does not get new responsibilities. There is no scene where Tony sits him down to say, "You did good." Instead, Perry's body becomes a punching bag when the boss needs to prove something to himself. The message is simple. In this life, being loyal does not protect you from being used. It might actually make you more likely to be used, because the boss knows you will not fight back. From a storytelling point of view, Perry also helps make the world of The Sopranos feel real. In a realistic criminal world, there should be dozens of guys like him. Young soldiers, drivers, bodyguards, guys who show up for a season or two and then vanish. They are not all meant to have full arcs or deep backstories. Their role is to quietly fill in the background and show that the organization is bigger than the main cast. Perry does exactly that. With a few strong moments, especially the gym scene, he becomes memorable without ever needing a big speech. You remember him not because of what he says, but because of what is done to him and what he represents. If we try to imagine Perry's future beyond the show, it is not hard to see the pattern. A guy like him has three basic paths. 1, he stays in the life, keeps being muscle, and either ends up in prison, dead, or permanently damaged. 2, he gets tired of being treated like a tool and quietly fades away, maybe trying to build a regular life somewhere else, if that is even possible when you have been this close to a mob boss. 3, he tries to move up and become a real player, but without brains, connections, or a mentor, that seems unlikely. The show does not give us answers, and that uncertainty is part of the tragedy. Perry is one of countless nameless soldiers whose stories the audience is never fully told. In the end, Perry Annunziata is not important because of the number of lines he has. He is important because he shows the cost of standing next to power in the world of The Sopranos. He shows how the boss uses young men as armor, both physically and emotionally. He shows how the new generation of gangsters is more about looks and muscle than mythology and honor. He shows how loyalty can be twisted into a one-way street where only the man at the very top benefits. And he shows how, in that world, being the boss's guy is not a golden ticket, but a risky position where you can be praised 1 minute and beaten bloody the next. Through Perry, the show reminds us that behind every powerful man, there is usually someone silent, bruised, and expendable, standing just over his shoulder.